burning streets where the wild things meet. Fast lane rebel cries, we're chasing the highs. In the dark of night, our lights collide. Electric dreams, we're alive. Going through the night, we're born to roam in the field service life, where the thrill of the chase cuts like a knife. We're born to rise in the fire and the strife.
All right, this is the Field Service Life podcast. I've got my buddy Mike Horbach here. He's gonna tell us about his experiences and his career path, which is also field service. It's very interesting. So, tell us about what it is that you do in your career.
Okay. Right now, I am the field service manager for a company called Kitchen Repair Specialists, and they're based out of Long Island. We service some of the most high-end restaurants in the entire world. We fix all things that make heat. We fix ovens, deep fryers, electric heat lamps, hot water heaters, boosters, dishwashers. And starting June 1st, we're actually rolling out a refrigeration division. So we're pretty excited about that.
Is there a link I can add to the video for this?
Um, our
I can add it in post production.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll give you all that information later.
Excellent,
So
excellent.
yeah.
So you mentioned a lot of different equipment. How do you have to memorize all these different equipments, or do you have different manuals, or how does that work?
Um, basically everything in my opinion kind of works the same. As long as you could read a wiring diagram, you could pretty much figure out how to fix just about anything.
So does everything that you work on have a wiring diagram like built into it?
No, we utilize we basically go online, we'll call manufacturers for resources and stuff like that. Some of the machines you'll open up and there'll be a wire diagram, but when you're dealing with when you're dealing with the high heat um, and moisture and stuff that is present in everyday kitchens in the commercial food service industry, those diagrams that are on the machines are pretty much illegible. So you basically reach out to the manufacturer and they'll email you the wire diagram and you just pull it up on your tablet or your phone or whatever.
That's what I was going to ask. So you have like a tablet, like a tough.
Well, I have a talk book. Most of the techs basically just use their cell phones for everything.
Okay, and then so like since you're their manager, did you decide like what you're going to use? You're going to have a tablet. You're going to have phone.
No, I mean they pretty much just all use all their own stuff, like whatever they want. If someone wants something special, we'll get it for them or whatever. But it's just easier when you're working in New York City and you have to carry all your stuff from your truck into the restaurant.
All about that.
Sometimes you're working in like the 50th floor of a skyscraper. So carrying your tools, carrying the parts you need for the job, and then carrying a tablet on top of it could be a little bit ridiculous. So,
You ever get into it with like the security and where they didn't let you use the elevator and you had to use the
well, when that happens, we just go somewhere else and come back.
All right, fair enough.
Luckily we have enough clientele and stuff that if anything like that were to happen, we would just go to the next location and then I call someone at the office to try to work it out. And when you have so many accounts in, such a small area, it's easy to just circle back after you finish the next call.
Gotcha. How many calls do your text typically do in a day?
It could range. Today but I do a lot more than just, service calls and stuff. Um, generally I'll do about 4 calls a day on top of all the other stuff that I do in
Wow.
my day to day.
What about your guys?
They're usually right around 4 to 6 calls a day, you know.
Wow. So
Yeah.
they're paying to park at every location and getting reimbursed.
Yeah, we use the New York City Park app.
Okay.
So they got a company credit card on their phone. They pull up, um, they pay before they go in. I basically tell them just to always throw on 3 hours because you never know when something's going to keep you a little bit later.
Right, right. As I said in my last podcast, the good thing about the field service life is if you go into a job and you finish it in 2 minutes, you're out of there, you're done, right? But if you go in there and you get stuck, you're stuck there for 5 hours. So
Yeah,
the
like
best,
one screw can make the difference from
right? So the
one
good,
screw can make a difference of, like a 10-minute job turning into about like a 30-minute job, 40-minute job.
right. So the best and worst part of the job is you go home and the job's over. Like
I
like an
don't I
office
don't I
job.
don't go home when the
Well, I
job's
mean,
over.
compared to like an office job, where an office job you have to
Yeah.
stay there until the
Oh,
designated hours.
exactly, exactly. Our guys when I first started out, we used to all line up at the Queensboro Bridge at around like 1:30, and we'd sit there and we wait until 2 o'clock before we could get kicked out, before we could get sent home. Now we don't really do that. So, if there's nothing backed up, we'll try to keep one guy in the city and we'll start sending other people home.
Gotcha. So, what's the craziest job you ever walked in on and you were like, what is going on here?
The craziest job, man. I don't know. That's actually a tough one because like there's a lot of wild stuff. I got one. I got one. This was actually like probably about 6 months ago. I went in on a warranty call, and a whole bunch of parts were sent out from the manufacturer, and it was a newer unit that they just don't have any more of these units made. So they sent out a whole bunch of parts for me to put this thing together. The oven was knocked off of the truck. The whole side was pretty much caved in,
Oh,
and they wanted me to try and repair this so because they didn't have any more machines to send out to them.
that's crazy.
Hmm.
So, do you run into that a lot where you have clients that have outdated equipment and they just refuse to upgrade?
Well, that machine it was actually the opposite. It was actually the opposite. The unit was so new that all the models that were already built were sold.
Ah,
So they couldn't just get them a new one, you
gotcha.
know? But yeah, I mean, with my industry, like the manufacturers really only have to get guarantee parts for 10 years. So after 10 years, you're kind of on your own and having to source generic parts or aftermarket parts.
Gotcha.
So,
Now, in your industry, do you get to like get a commission on saying, hey, your equipment's out of date. Why don't you update it to this? And does your company sell anything like that? And do you get a commission if you
we
do?
we don't currently sell machines, even though we are kind of talking about it a little bit right now. Because my thought is that if you sell the equipment, then you install the equipment. The people that buy the equipment from you see what a good job you did installing it,
Right.
and you can also service it under warranty. But if you're the company that's selling it to them, to keep them as customers, you could extend that warranty and offer free labor for 2 years. So that's kind of my thought, extending the warranty for an extra year on the labor, not the parts.
Right. And
And
a little bit of an upcharge on the install so you cover your losses in case you do have to go out there.
um, like honestly, I think of everything as a way to kind of just make long-term customers,
Okay.
you know. Um, for instance, recently I went out to a trade show in Chicago, and when I was out there, all the manufacturers that we currently do a lot of work with, and we see a lot of work in our restaurants. We see a lot of their equipment in our restaurants. I talked to them and stuff like that, but the manufacturers that I really wanted to go and talk to were the manufacturers that we don't normally see because they're in different places that we don't have access to right now. So it's kind of like we could get in there and show our face and hopefully build connections with them
Right.
and build a relationship and have clientele that we never really had before.
Okay,
So,
makes sense.
yeah.
All right. So you said you work in Manhattan. Is it primarily during the day, or do you have like any emergency night calls?
Our shifts are generally 6 to 2. Um, we do work on weekends. We kind of like we don't really do an on-call right now.
Okay.
We used to, but we've been able to basically get away with having our staff volunteer for overtime and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, and usually we get like 1 to 2 guys that always want to do it on the weekends, and we have a couple of guys that will always pull that after hours call. Sometimes we do have to go in extra early, especially for places like bakeries and stuff like that, where most of their production
It's
it starts at like 3 a.m.
right before.
So a couple of weeks ago, I was actually in the city at 3 working on and from out here it's like an hour and a half drive.
Oh yeah.
But I was in the city bright and early fixing their oven for them before they got cranking.
So in the city, at 3 in the morning, do you run into any like crazy stuff going on like out there?
There's always crazy stuff going in the city. Like what kind of crazy
Well,
stuff?
specify which city. He's
Well,
talking
New
about New
New
York
York, New
City.
York City, Manhattan, yeah.
So 3 a.m. New York City, you're driving,
Uh,
you're
there,
half asleep.
there's all sorts of shenanigans out there.
Shenanigans. I love it.
There's all sorts of shenanigans going on in New York City, man.
Any stories that really stand out?
Nothing I want to get into, man.
Fair enough.
So,
Fair enough. We should solve it. Um, so you're in all these high-end restaurants. You're repairing them. You're the guy that's coming and saving the day when it's broken. Do you guys do any kind of maintenance?
yeah, so with the majority of the Michelin star restaurants that we service, we basically we generally have service customer contracts with those customers.
Okay.
They don't have to be. They could do everything time and material, but the majority of them just want to have contracts with us because they want to know that we'll be there when they need us. So, like basically a service contract for us is we go in, we take a list of all their equipment. We kind of figure what we think labor wise it's going to be a month. Um, with that service contract monthly, we'll go in and we'll do stuff like clean out all their burners. We'll basically just fine tune everything in their restaurant, make sure they don't have any issues. Those kind of customers, they want to make sure nothing's going to go down when they need it the most.
Right.
So it's kind of like you're actually fixing stuff before it breaks in most of those locations.
Right.
Um,
So what would you say, percentage wise, is the percentage of customers that actually want the maintenance service versus they just want you to come in when something breaks?
oh man, I'm gonna say probably about 80% of yeah, because it really does work out. I mean, like we have contracts that probably range anywhere from like $300-400 a month to upwards of like $2,000 a month. Like we're in some are even probably more. I don't know those numbers, but some of our contracts are pretty huge.
Nice.
So yeah.
So Michelin star, any big name restaurants that you can talk about, or is it an NDA?
No, it's fine. Like we service a lot of the celebrity chefs and just like really big names. Like we handle most of the Daniel Boulud accounts. Daniel Boulud is probably one of the best chefs in the world. We handle a restaurant called 11 Madison. Um, that restaurant, I believe, this year won number one restaurant in the world
Oh wow,
award. So
the world.
yeah, and I'm in there messing around with their stuff every day. So
So this is like one of the things I really wanted to get into with the field service light. It's like, did you even know that there was a guy who goes into that restaurant, the number one restaurant in the world, sitting right here? This guy goes into that restaurant, makes sure everything's working so that when you go there to eat or whoever goes there to eat, and all the food critics and everybody else, they got they got their equipment working because somebody like us, a field service worker, goes out there and makes it happen. This is a career path that like
and people don't really know about it.
right, right.
You know,
That's
like
exactly what
people,
I'm trying.
I didn't know about it really before I started doing it. Like I
How,
kind of did.
how did you get started?
Um, so really my brother was was working for this company before I was.
Right.
But before that, I worked in restaurants pretty much my whole life. Like I went to culinary school and everything like that. When I got out, um, I didn't, like I worked in the restaurants and stuff like that. But a lot of people probably underestimate how hard that lifestyle is.
I watch Hell's Kitchen, so I know.
It's even tougher. I mean, like they don't show you like the really rough stuff that goes on in restaurants. So, I mean, yeah, Gordon Ramsay's yelling at people and stuff like that.
I just ate at this restaurant last weekend.
Yeah. Well, I saw. Yeah, but what was that with the steak and the
The
beef
yeah, beef
Wellington?
Wellington.
Oh yeah, that looked awesome.
It was
Yeah,
amazing.
it looked like it was cooked awesome too.
Oh my god.
But basically just the hours were kind of killing me,
Mm.
you know. I was working probably 60 hours a week as like as a salaried employee,
Wow.
and it just wasn't for me. I couldn't get time off for family functions or anything like that. And you know, I was asking my brother to get me a job with him. He wouldn't get me the job.
That's messed up.
But one of my friends was also working with the company, and he put in a word for me.
So your brother wouldn't put in a word for you, but
My
your friend
brother,
did.
well,
I thought
yeah,
blood's
yeah,
supposed to be thicker
yeah.
than water.
Well, it
Don't
it
let
it
that
is, it
increase.
is. We're actually very close, like me and my brother, but like I understand. I understand. You don't want to mess anything up, so.
Yeah, I mean, I have a family member that could use some help, but they haven't shown me anything. But I have other family members that I'd love to help, So
Yeah.
I get it.
Well, I recently my nephew, I actually got him a job working for us recently. So he's he trained for a couple of months. We taught him just basics and stuff. And right now he's kind of like going out and he's doing all the really, really simple jobs that we'll go and we'll diagnose and he'll go and just like
Just a
install the
party.
parts for
Yeah,
us.
gotcha. It's a
Um,
good way to get started, though.
yeah, he also like if anyone needs something they don't have in a truck, like my plan is to kind of like have him as like a runner until he really gets his feet wet.
It's funny, we have a lot of the same stuff going on in both of our industries. I want to get into and ask you about the training, but before I do, I wanted to ask you, um, when you first got in and you first started doing it, how long was it before you were going out there by yourself?
Okay, so basically when I started training, there was a technician on staff that had a suspended driver's license. So I really drove him around for a good 6 months. Excuse me. I learned a lot from watching them and stuff like that. Um, and it may have even been a little bit longer than that. It may have been closer to like a year. I'm not really sure. We generally try to keep people right around like 6 months. We hire people with like technical backgrounds.
Specifically, like from what?
We like people with for the hot side, we like to get people with some sort of plumbing experience. Um, I just trained up and now I got this guy out. He was an electrician. He was actually an electrician up here.
Okay,
Um,
was that the guy that was at the Legion with us?
no, that wasn't the guy that was at the Legion. I bust his chops about that every day.
Oh, do you?
So yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
But yeah, I trained him up. He was a residential electrician.
Okay.
Um, we're not necessarily electricians, but I mean, like I'm constantly figuring it out. So we deal with like a little bit more electronics. Like I'm troubleshooting relays, contactors, transformers, stuff like that. Testing microfarads on capacitors.
Yep.
I mean, like all that stuff kind of maybe not so much residential electrician side, but being comfortable and knowing how to use a meter and stuff. All you got to really do is teach that guy gas, you know?
Right.
And and yeah, he's actually been a pretty good producer for us. Actually, today he had we do monthly reports, like sales reports and stuff, like what technicians doing what.
Okay.
And he basically this month broke a like kind of like a goal I set for him. So I kind of talked to him and said, like I kind of want you to be able to produce this much for the company. And he blew it away by probably almost about 20%. So he got
Sounds
a
like you got
he
it.
got a nice little bonus. Actually, the guy from the Legion got a nice little bonus too.
Nice. It
And
seems like they
someone
encourage you.
else got a really nice bonus. It wasn't me. I wish it was me, but yeah.
All right. Okay. So, all right, now that we talked about that, I wanted to get back to the training. So, what kind of
Okay.
training do you guys actually offer when, you obviously you said you want somebody with some experience,
Yeah.
but once they come in, how are you getting them up to speed?
So there's a couple of things that we do. Um, we'll send someone out with a technician every day. And basically that technician is supposed to be walking them through all the paperwork that we do. Uh,
You guys call them field service reports like we do, FSRs?
no, we call them invoices.
Okay.
We call them invoices. So basically
So your
what,
guys are actually doing the invoice in the field.
oh yeah.
All right,
Oh
because
yeah.
the way we do it is
Well,
we have, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
no,
but
no.
we have our guy does the report. He sends us the report. We analyze it. We maybe have to make some changes or let them know, whatever, and then we invoice from the back office. But
No, we're basically an invoice for us. We're just writing basically the story of the call. So
and
what
you
I
trust the
did,
guys to do that and not oh I just skip over something I forgot or
absolutely.
okay
They're grown-ups, right?
yeah
Yeah. So training. They'll ride around with the technician. The technician will basically teach them troubleshooting. They'll teach them what's expected on a maintenance. There's also a lingo that basically we use, like all the terminology and stuff, so you can intelligently communicate with dispatch and the people that are checking you out. We'll also do manufacturer training. Um, on Tuesday, actually coming up, we have two guys doing online training for one of our major manufacturers that we do warranty work for. Um,
okay do they ever do in-person training where they go to the factory and
Absolutely. Actually, I was down in Dallas end of April. We had a couple of other guys beginning of March down in Dallas. So there's Middleby is major corporation. They probably have about 30 manufacturers under their umbrella, and they have this huge facility, totally state of the art, down in the Dallas Fort Worth area.
Okay.
And we'll send guys down. We put them up in a hotel for pretty much the week. We give them a per diem so they could go out, have some good barbecue.
Nice.
Um, and yeah, they just get that hands-on training. Like at those hands-on trainings, they'll literally take the whole machine apart and put it back together.
Nice.
Yeah, that's run by a guy named Isaac Locke. He's the training coordinator, and they do everything down there from like basic electricity to like individual machines.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like, again, my same industry that I'm in. They send you to the manufacturer training, unless you work for a manufacturer, then you just get the training from them. But the third parties do the same thing where they
Yeah.
go to they make partnerships with manufacturers, they get their training because those manufacturers are struggling because there's not enough people in this industry. There is not enough people. We need people. So
Well, you got to talk to the kids in high school.
I have.
That's what it is.
I spoke to them down here at DV.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's what it is. Like we've been, everyone's been told that they have to do a 4-year degree. Meanwhile, you could easily make over six figures doing something without racking up that student loan.
Right on. And
So,
then, you start out in the field making the money, with the overtime and everything, and then you move up and then you become either a manager or a supervisor or
well, that's the thing. Like, you know, there's so much room for different things you can do. Like,
tech support.
I never thought I was going to be a field service manager, like at all. Like, I was a manager practically everywhere else I've ever worked. And I kind of, I kind of like found it awesome that I didn't have to have all that responsibility. All I had to do was be responsible for myself. Um, but now that I'm here, you know, I never thought I'd do it, but I'm doing it. There's other stuff that I could be doing too. Like I just got my 608, so now I'm certified to do refrigeration.
Nice.
And I have been doing a couple of calls. Our rollout is June 1st, but I have been doing a couple of calls. But I never thought I'd be doing refrigeration. I work for a hot side company.
Right.
And there's other stuff you could be doing too. Like if I really wanted to, I could probably go and do tech support for a manufacturer or something like that. Just answer calls and give people, walk through schematics with people and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it's amazing. That's,
sales, I mean, especially like someone like me, working for like a company that sells the equipment, you know, I actually worked on it. And I got that service side. So it's like I know what breaks and I know what works the best for actually being a chef. So
yeah, absolutely. So how old are you at this point?
me,
Yeah.
45.
45. All right. Yeah. So you've been in this career a long time and you've seen both sides of it. You were the guy using the equipment and now you're the guy servicing the equipment. So come full circle, right? So yeah, product support would make a lot of sense for you at this point because you can get people where they need to be. You've seen it all at this point. You've done it all. Um, what's next for you?
I'm happy where I am. The company I'm with, my boss Danny, he's great. Like he's been great to me. He's been great to my family and stuff like that. Um, we're building every day. Um, we're talking about really trying to create a one-stop shop where we offer everything from exhaust hood repairs, um, basic plumbing, electricity, um, cleaning services, and everything. And I'm hoping that if everything goes good, that I'm more in that I could find myself more in like an operations role, kind of running all of that and having independent managers for like each department.
Yeah, that would be great.
that I would pretty much oversee.
That
That's kind of what I'm looking for. Um, but we got a way to go before that. The party just started, so
all right. Where do you see the industry going? Do you see any like trends or new things coming out?
yeah. So as I said, I was down in Chicago. One of the things that I've noticed, a lot of these manufacturers are starting to incorporate a lot of robotics into their equipment. So there are actually mechanical arms that will load French fry baskets, dump French fry baskets. Um, they have robot waiters. They have bartender robots that we saw. They were actually there making martinis and stuff, like shaking it and perfect pours every time. And at first, it's probably all going to start out as like niches, like, but I could easily see within the next 5 to 10 years, Times Square, there being like a restaurant that, everything is pretty much done by robots.
Well, then what about with the with AI, constantly improving? Are you going to start to see equipment that the AI is just going to be built in and it's going to make your job obsolete?
As in what? Like repairing it?
Yeah.
I don't really see that at all. You
Somebody
know,
asked me the same question, so I'm asking you, but
yeah.
I don't know
Well,
the answer.
I just don't see it because there's, you know, maybe it will. Maybe it will. I just don't see how a robot could do what I do, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
However, I did see a pretty cool video the other day of of a robot like repairing um, power lines.
Huh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, yeah. A robot was up there in like a cherry lift repairing power lines.
It's good because it's dangerous, It's
Yeah,
better to
well,
put
that's well,
robots
that's a
on this.
lot of high-paying jobs right there.
Sure.
So,
Well, somebody's got to fix the robot, somebody's got to,
yeah,
program the robot, somebody's got to still drive the car. Well, the cars can drive themselves nowadays,
pretty
but
much, yeah.
okay. Let's get less technical. Let's talk more about like the lifestyle. So, you've worked both. You've worked with kitchen hours. You've worked that. You've worked the field service life. What do you like about like the lifestyle in itself? The traveling back and
Um,
forth.
well, you know, um, I like what I do now because pretty much with the working in kitchens, you never knew when you were going to be home, you know. Someone could call in sick and you'd be stuck there, you know.
That
You'd
doesn't
you'd be
happen.
stuck you'd be stuck working doubles. That doesn't happen now.
What if you're out in the field and the other guy goes home and there's another call and you have to go?
That very rarely happens. Again, we have people that will actually volunteer for that overtime. So, what I like about what I do is pretty much I'm home I could get my kids off the bus after work. We could go out, we could go fishing. Um, that was never a thing when I was a chef. So,
It's good. So basically, better quality of life working
oh, such a better
field
quality of
service.
life. Yep.
What about one of the things that I always found good about it, and I don't know if you'll agree, but being that you're going here and you're going there, you pass all these different places, right? So if you need something, you can just pick it up on your route, right? And that's part of work. You're not like, all right, yeah, you're taking 5 minutes to run to a store, but like nobody's gonna
Hmm.
penalize you for that,
Yeah, today I stopped in to buy a torque set on my you know, on a way to one of my calls.
right?
So,
And that you could probably use that for the job too, right? So it's not even like,
well, it was for the job.
there you go.
So, yep.
But also you can use your tools if like you needed to do brakes on your car, for example, right?
Hmm.
And you have the hand skills to do it.
Yep.
Okay, so better lifestyle, better. freedom, right? You're not stuck in a room waiting with somebody over you. What about the freedom? Like there's nobody there, right? I mean, even before you became manager, how when you were not the manager, how often did you deal with the manager?
Um, realistically, like well, I kind of tell all the guys now. Um, if you don't hear from me, it's probably a good thing, you know? Like unless some of the guys like I'll call and we'll kind of like BS every now and then. But for the most part, like, you know, my boss would usually just call me to tell me I'm doing a good job, or if or if there was an issue with one of the calls I was on and he just needed an answer. But before I actually got the management position, negative calls from my manager, I'd say I was probably like once every 6 months, and that was just finding out like what happened so that he could relay it to the customer.
Right. So
So if you're not hearing from the manager, it's a good thing,
right.
you know.
So my point is, if you work in an office, your manager's office is there, your office here, you're going to be dealing with
Uh-huh.
him. You have to
Uh-huh.
be
Yep.
normal, every time he comes
Yep.
by for, so to speak. Whereas you're in the field, you're just living your life, you're doing your thing, you're going to your job, you're doing your job.
You
And
do what you need, you do what you need to do, and you won't have anyone bother you.
exactly.
So,
That's the life. That's the life, people. You know. I mean, I'm really trying to target a lot of guys in the military, and I know because I was in the military, I know that you have your chief or you have your officer, and they're kind of overseeing and maybe micromanaging what you're doing. There's no micromanaging in this field because you're out there by yourself.
I could see micromanaging actually being a thing. I really could. Um, it all just depends whether the boss trusts you or not, you know. Like there are some people that kind of need to be micromanaged. Actually, one of the things that I find most interesting about actually being a manager is dealing with the different personalities. So you got,
Sorry.
oh man, you got some people that are so fragile and so delicate, some people that are so hard-headed, you know. Yeah, well, yeah, you're kind of hard-headed. So why not?
We're really good friends. We actually trained martial arts together. We did
Yeah,
jujitsu,
yeah,
so we've been
years.
yeah.
So
But seriously, so all right, when it comes to dispatching and getting your schedule, how does that work?
okay. Well, my brother's actually the dispatcher.
Okay.
So, my brother will actually dispatch the calls. That actually, a lot of the not who's going where, but the calls that need to be gotten to, that'll all that'll all be coordinated between the dispatcher and the owner of the company.
Okay.
Because a lot of the customers that are super, super high profile customers, you gotta get to them because you know what it is, and it's kind of like with any industry.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, someone else will. So you gotta there are customers you gotta get to, and they get some of them will get like top priority in the whole timeliness of the dispatching. So my brother will actually text us. Everything gets done via text. So the call will be texted to the technician. Technician will leave a response, got it, and he's off.
So if he doesn't get a text that day, he just sits home and waits.
No, there's never a day that there isn't something to do. There's never a day that there isn't something to do. Um, Again, like we're all in the city at 6 a.m. Except for the guys that are in Long Island. So we also handle Long Island and Connecticut as well, and parts of New Jersey too. So I keep talking about Manhattan because that's kind of like where our hub is. That's like where the base of everything that we do is. But we're pretty much all over the tri-state area. So so everyone's going into work regardless. There's going to be something for them.
Gotcha.
We're never that slow where somebody has to stay home.
So would you say everybody's utilized Monday through Friday every week of every year?
Monday through, absolutely,
Wow,
absolutely.
that's incredible.
Yep.
So you must have tons of customers. I mean, obviously there's a lot of restaurants in Manhattan. So,
We have tons of customers and we keep getting more. So, that's kind of like a big thing of what I do too, is I kind of try to be a salesman, but it's not so much being a salesman. It's you go into a a job, you do a better job than the other guys, and they're gonna want to do business with you.
right. So all right. So in that respect, are you saying that you might get a cold call, like I don't want to say cold call, like you get a call from somebody you don't have a contract with, somebody that you don't really normally deal with. You go out there, you show them the good life, you take care of them really good, and then now you try to get them as a customer for good.
So, no cold calling involved.
Not saying you cold call them. I'm saying you have customers that
That
people
will
who
call
aren't your
up.
customers, right?
Yes,
Like they call
yes,
the 800 number, they need service, they don't know who to call, they call you, and you try to make them your customer.
yes. I actually have a couple of examples. So, Wolfgang Pucks. I'm sure you've heard of Wolfgang Puck.
Very
Um,
famous chef.
we got called in there for warranty, and I checked when their warranty was expiring on their equipment, and I basically told them what we could do for them as with our maintenance contract. Um,
Sorry.
that's it. It's a
Maintenance contract. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so what I was saying is we were talking about like how you would actually get customers or um people to be your customers. So like
Oh,
one
right. So
thing
somebody calls your
you,
name
you were you
through.
were talking about cold calling, or not cold calling, but someone calling.
Who's your call?
And they do. A lot of it's word of mouth too. But a lot of it is also going in and doing a really good job and being personable with the customer. So one of the examples I was going to give is I got dispatched to a place called Wolfgang Puck. Cut was the name of the restaurant. Cut by Wolfgang Puck. And I went in there on a warranty call, and their warranty was expiring in a couple of months. I sold them on a full contract saying we stock everything in this kitchen in our vans.
Wow.
And, it ended up becoming one of those things where we had a customer for the next however many years, just from realizing when their warranty was up and offering them that contract. Another example I got is there was this one is not our customer yet, but within the next month or two, we should get the okay. We actually just quoted them on a contract. So we went in, they had an oven that three other companies tried to fix. It was down for 8 months. Some of them are like our biggest competitors,
Hmm.
trying to fix these. Some of them are actually the authorized service agents from the warranty companies,
the warranty company that this oven is, they couldn't figure it out. They sent me in there. The first thing I did was I checked the gas pressure and I saw their gas pressure was like, you know, way higher than it was supposed to be. And I fixed that. I went in, I found that out. I ordered the part to correct that. And, you know, the whole process of them getting that oven fixed once they dealt with me was probably about 4 days.
Wow.
Meanwhile, their oven was out for 8 months and no one could figure it out. So after I fixed it, I said, guys, if you want, I don't know who you're using now, but use us. You saw what I did. I came in here, I figured it out, I fixed it, I gave you special attention. And this is a huge, huge hotel um, in New York City, like one of the top hotels in the city.
Wow.
So
Sure, your boss is happy then.
fingers crossed, because I get bonus for
Sweet,
that.
sweet. That's awesome. And how do you feel at the end of the day like that? Not only did you solve the problem, but you like made a huge land the contract for your company.
Well, Um,
Are
well,
you gonna get the champagne?
no, I feel, I enjoy when problem calls get solved. I really do. Like, even nobody's perfect. I've been doing this forever, and I still make mistakes doing it. Um, you know, but when that happens, and then you realize the mistake, and then you correct it, there's a sense of accomplishment once that happens, for sure. Get excited.
So, at this point in your career, when you've done so much and you've helped build your company's business, you've helped, grow it, you're training people, you're managing people. What else could you do to help like leave your mark and to help, bring more people into this industry?
One thing that I have been trying to do is get with trade schools. You know, I've reached out to trade schools to try to get young kids employed and
That's great.
working with us. The younger generation, though, they're kind of tough to deal with. So,
I wouldn't say that. I
but
think they just need direction.
they do. But I think that's something I would like to actually go in and talk to some of the students in the trade schools um about what we do, because like you said earlier, like, nobody thinks about it. Someone's in there fixing all the stuff that your food's being prepared on. So
Got a great question. All right. So you said you do 4 to 6 calls a day?
I'll do about four. I'll
Okay.
do about four.
And you're home by what time?
Little after 2 o'clock.
Two
Well,
o'clock.
actually, scratch that. I leave by 2, and I'm usually home between 3 and 3:30.
Okay. So between this job, you're traveling, you're parking, you're dragging your tools around. How much time do you actually spend in the job, doing the job at each site?
It's kind of a
I know it varies, but
well, that's what it is. It is a varying question. So, one of my I did 2 or 3 calls today. One of those calls, I was in for probably a good 3 or 4 hours. So what you said, it varies. It really does. Like, no call's the same. There are some calls I'll go in and I'll figure it out. I'll install the part, and I'll be on my way in probably about a half hour. There's some other calls that are a little more complicated. I get a lot of the more complicated stuff though.
it's the
We're
proof
trained.
of seniority.
Yes, yes, but we're trained. I want, what my goal is to have a uh, army of techs that you could send on pretty much any call out there, and not it just be, you know,
Right. Like we got a bunch of junior guys who can do some of the stuff. You want to have all senior guys, but the problem is once they get senior, then they start looking where else they can go to get more money. Right.
Yeah, but that's
Part of the
kind
game.
of why you want to take care of your guys when they're there. So one of the things I did was I kind of gave them little incentives that we never really had here. Um, we do a contest every month for like top performers and stuff. So where we don't issue like bonuses for selling and stuff. We'll issue bonuses for stuff like first time fixes, you know, we do top performer bonus, but it's not necessarily sales related. It's what they produce. So if you're the guy that's gonna go in and volunteer on the weekend, you're obviously gonna have higher numbers than those people, and that's all considered. So we give bonus for that.
Nice.
Um,
So overtime and then bonus on top of that.
yeah, like our volunteers, I said we have people that volunteer. Whenever people volunteer to work weekends and stuff, we throw them extra cash and stuff for just doing that on top of their time and a half.
Nice.
So, a lot of little things that we're trying to do to let them know that they're appreciated.
That's awesome. Now, you said you're building an army. How big are you so far?
Well, right now we have 10 techs. I'm looking to always keep 2 trainees. We have ads out where we're trying to hire refrigeration techs. My goal, um, you know, is to eventually have, the same amount of people fixing refrigerators and stuff like that as fixing the hot equipment.
Okay.
So I'm looking to build to about 25.
Nice.
That's the team that I want.
Have you considered using a recruiter?
I have not. Are you gonna try to sell me on it right now, Frank?
No, I'm just gonna throw my plug out there.
Yeah, throw your plug out there.
Me,
Frankie does recruiting.
me and my wife, we just, obviously I have a day job and I work full time, but we're just building a company because I just want to get back to this, this field service industry that's given so much to me and my family. I want to help, young guys mostly coming out the military or, uh, who did trade school or whatever, who are trying to figure out a career path. So I'm going to seminars and I'm trying to talk to people and I'm on LinkedIn and I'm yelling through the bullhorn like, hey, this is a great career opportunity, and I just really want to help people. Yeah, and, it works out well, and people are happy. I mean, obviously he's in this industry, he's happy. I'm in this industry, I'm happy. I've interviewed a few other people, and I'm going to continue to do so. But if you are interested, I will leave my business information and my business email in the. I'll have a little pop up right about here. It'll be FA recruiting and consulting and recruiting. But anyway, that's enough of that. So what else? What else? Um, so
Basically, like what we're trying to do is for building staff, we haven't really tried the whole recruiting route. What we have been doing is ads on Indeed.
Mhm.
We got a couple of good techs. Like one of our hot side techs that we recently pulled off of there. He's just an absolute stud.
It's awesome.
He's probably one of our most consistent techs since we got him in a van. We're also, like I said, like putting ads out with trade schools, but the problem with that is you got to actually train these people, and we do want to train them. It's just we only have so many people that I would want to be training them.
Well, what about getting guys fresh out of the military who've had similar jobs?
Well, that's a good idea. I just don't have those outlets like you do.
No, we can talk. I can hook you up.
All right, Frank, we'll talk. I'm sure my boss would love something like that.
Okay. So what else? More around the lifestyle. Okay, so people who work and they sit in an office all day, they like you know, it's kind of depressing, you know? You're on the road. Do you enjoy driving?
I love driving in. Like sometimes I'll drive in and my brain's constantly going. So I'll drive in and, you know, for like an hour to an hour and a half, like I have all that time to just think about the day, think about what's going on, plan my next move, stuff like that. Yeah, I love driving. I got an hour and a half in, hour and a half home. So,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I did this same deal for a very long time. I moved to Pennsylvania. I was in Staten Island and I was working primarily in Manhattan and New Jersey. But then when I moved to Pennsylvania, same thing. I got the hour and a half drive into New York. I got the hour and a half drive into like Central Jersey. So a lot of time on the road. I started listening to audiobooks. Do you do any of that?
that's actually how I got my 608.
Oh, nice.
I listened to the book multiple times on the way in, on the way home. Took all the practice tests on the way in, on the way home.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that is pretty cool. Um, I listen to a lot of sports radio too.
Mm, that's
I
really
don't
good.
I don't really watch sports either. I just listen to it.
I don't want to. The only sport I like to even watch is the fights, and that's like once a month, maybe twice a month.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'd rather watch a sitcom and laugh
There's
than.
just so many now.
I know, I know,
There's just so many fights. Every weekend there's like a new fight.
and I don't watch it all the time. I used to
And
be, when we were training, when we were more serious, I
hmm
was way more into it. All right, what else? What else? Um, what would you say would be the best way for someone who wanted to get into this industry, and yours specifically? What would be the fastest and easiest way without having to go into debt to like get into this industry?
call me.
That easy, huh?
Seriously, call me. Everything starts with the conversation, call me, talk about it.
Okay, okay. I'll put your contact information in the link if you're interested, if you want me to.
Absolutely. You could put my contact info. If anyone does refrigeration or HVAC, definitely, definitely reach out. Even if you don't, we could definitely have a conversation and talk about it. I've kind of learned that everyone has something they could be used for. So
Right on. The only thing that
you just got to know how to use them right.
Right, but it's the problem with employees is it's not just about what they're capable of, right? It's about getting them to show up on time. It's about getting
Attitude,
to show up every day,
attitude.
have the right attitude, right?
Yeah.
And if you have those things and you're an employable person and you'll show up and you won't complain and
You'll
argue,
you'll eventually figure it out.
exactly. You
Yeah.
can learn the skill if you don't have it.
Yeah, one of the things that drives me crazy is someone who psychs themselves out before they go in on something that might be a little bit outside their wheelhouse. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
so as soon as you get that attitude where you're about to walk into a call and you never looked at this machine, and there's so many machines. I mean, like I said, I've been doing this forever. There there are more manufacturers than I could even name of this equipment. And you go to their models list, and there's even more models than manufacturers. So,
Right.
you're talking about thousands and thousands of pieces of equipment. You're never going to know everything. But like I said earlier, you teach yourself the basics and how everything works pretty much the same,
Fundamentals.
and then you use that. And I'm kind of finding even with the refrigeration, which everyone will tell you it's totally different, but everything's the same. Just instead of calling for heat, now you're calling for cold.
Mhm.
So,
So there's another option. There's a lot of books out there to get you started in this industry, and I actually wrote a book on field service. It's more geared towards what I do specifically, but it covers all the basic electronics and electricity and stuff like that. So if you'd be interested in that, I'll throw a link in that as well. I'll cover right here, and yeah, I'll throw a link in the description. But the other part of all of this is, as we said, it's about the right attitude, and you can't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. And that's the problem is a lot of people are afraid. And I've seen it. I've seen it in my industry. When I first got into this industry, there was a guy who was um, there, and he was supposed to be training me. And fast forward 5 years, and I was a senior tech, and he was still a junior tech, like associate level tech. He never moved up because every time there was a call on a piece of equipment
I
he didn't
can't do it.
know.
You got to send someone else.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And he was afraid to fail. And you can't be afraid to fail.
Yeah, you're gonna mess up.
Right. And
You're
everything
you're gonna
happens.
you're gonna
Okay.
you're gonna mess up a lot, but every time you mess up, you're gonna learn something. You
Exactly.
know, if you have the right attitude, you're gonna learn something. Like one of the things that drives me crazy is you'll get someone calling you. They have a problem with the machine. You're talking to them about it, trying to give them help, and you could just hear in their voice that they're not going to do the steps that you're giving them. You ever get that?
Yeah, I actually hate to
So,
say it on here, but I've only terminated a couple of people in my career, but there was this one guy who I was on vacation actually. I was on a boat and I stopped what I was doing and I knew this unit from the back of my hand, so I didn't need a print. And I was telling him, "Did you check this? Did you check this? I don't want to go into specifics." And the next day, I sent another guy to the job. He opened up the door and he sent me a picture. Big burnt cable right in the middle. Right? There's no way he didn't say it was eye level. This guy didn't even open the door. Right? I spent hours. Did you check this? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, oh,
yeah,
they yes you to death. They tell you everything you want to hear, but you know, the guy was probably in the parking lot. He was probably left already. He didn't want to deal with it, and it's a sad thing. But
yeah, yeah, especially when it gets close to quitting time. I don't know how your hours and stuff are where you are, but 2 o'clock is kind of quitting time for us. So once 1:30 comes along, it's like everyone kind of, you know, they try to call it quits. And actually today, I had a guy out on a warranty call, and he had a machine that was giving him a short. And in my opinion, like troubleshooting a short over the phone, you're not going to be able to troubleshoot a short over the phone. You just can't. And I'm telling him what he has to do, disconnect all the loads
mhm.
and one by one
Circuit.
disconnect the line cord, see if it still shorts the breaker when
Yeah. Keep
when
your
you
meter
have it
on
disconnected
and
for
just keep cooking stuff up.
exactly.
It stops beeping.
Yeah, but sometimes in my industry, like a lot of times some of the shorts you won't be able to troubleshoot to ground. So indicator light sometimes, like an indicator light, if that's causing the short, you won't be able to detect it at ground. Sometimes even switches. So if you ever get a short, you can't trouble you can you have something shorting out, you're not getting it to ground, just change the switch, change the indicator light. But
Tips from the pros.
that's it. That's it, baby. Or what you could do is just disconnect those and see if it still shorts, but
There you
whatever.
go.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, but in his voice when I was talking to him today, I could hear, and it was one of those things where he had to completely cross Midtown, like right a little after two, you know,
Deal with all the
and
traffic and
yeah, I could tell in his voice that
he
he
was
was
frustrated.
probably he was probably gonna skip out and not do his job. And I'm actually interested on Monday to find out if he actually did. So,
It's kind of like they say never buy a car that was built on a Friday.
yeah, yeah. What?
But this has been an awesome interview, Mike.
All right, Frank.
Is there anything you want to just close out with, or
No, no, not at all. Like it was nice to talk. When I come home, I don't really have too many people to, talk about work with, even the wife. You know, you talk to her, she doesn't get it, but it's nice to talk to someone else that is kind of in the same wheelhouse, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, we can always have you on again. This is only the third episode, and I want to keep this going, right? Because again, we need people. He needs people. I need people. We're all struggling in this industry to get people in the door because they just don't know it exists. And it's a beautiful lifestyle. It's a different lifestyle. You're not sitting in the office. You're not rotting away. You're going to a place and you're helping people who need your help. You're like the hero, except you don't wear a cape. You could wear a cape, but I mean, I don't know. Not my thing, but all right, Mike. Well, hey, thanks for being on the pod,
All
and
right, Frank.
let's get together again soon, my friend.
All right.
Blazing hearts, burning streets where the wild things meet. Fast lane rebel cries. We're chasing the highs in the dark of night. Our lights collide. Electric dreams, we're alive. Power for the night. We're born to roam in the field service life, where the thrill of the chase cuts like a knife. We're born to rise in the fire and the strife.